tried to stop, and my mathlete abilities, I missed the stop button 3 times. So whatever, I'm just gonna start like this. So it's probably one of the best intros to a video ever, right? Whatever. So I was delightfully wrong about my predictions with the George Floyd verdict. A few weeks ago I had put a video out there saying, it's the way things were shaping up drew some real question marks as to whether or not we would get the convictions that we all felt we wanted in our hearts. One thing for sure, and I think one thing I predicted was that it doesn't matter which way you think it's gonna go, it's not gonna go that way. So at least in that regard, I was right. I didn't expect them to convict guilty on all counts. But I want to talk about a little bit about what it means, because I do still think there's some emotional, there's an emotional future to this that is yet undetermined. And I want to draw a parallel to O.J. Simpson's trial and acquittal, because even though it's two totally different situations in different times in our lives, the notion of the trial by public opinion is not a new concept. And so let's talk about OJ for a second, right? Can I help you?
Why are you looking up?
I'm making a video. Can I wait? Thank you. You never escape. So, with the OJ trial, right? That was an emotional acquittal by the public. In other words, we took focus off of OJ and the evidence against OJ because we knew LAPD was so inherently racist. Rodney King had recently happened. Furman went up there and pled the fifth. And so, of course, Johnny Cochran was the superstar of the show. What we're facing now is kind of sort of the same thing, right? Where after the dust settled on OJ, and as time went by, we started sitting there thinking, yeah, they're racist. But weren't we trying to decide if he killed people, right? So, sort of like, he murdered 2 people, but what really matters is the fact that the LAPD is racist, and that's the bigger problem, right? So we kind of sort of turned and pivoted, and we've come to sort of a different understanding. Well, did we get what we wanted? And Chris Rock says it best. He's like, when OJ got acquitted, we all, black people said, we did it, we won, right? And he says, but I never got an OJ prize in the mail. Like, what did we win? And you start looking back, and you're like, holy shit, like there was a literal trail of blood that led all the way from the crime scene to the dude's house. But somehow we didn't see that and think objectively about it because racism, right? In the case of Derek Chauvin, what these guilty verdicts ultimately mean is that we're redefining what murder is, literally, because the way, the frustrating thing about the law is what we observe and what we observe and experience experientially doesn't necessarily line up with the way things are written and codified in the law. And so it becomes difficult to find where exactly this codified structure of law applies to fluid and dynamic situations such as OJ and Derek Chauvin and George Floyd, right? Because one thing law is not, it is not dynamic, it is not fluid, but life is, right? So, where I thought that he might get acquitted of the higher charges because there's no evidence of depravity or intention to cause harm. I mean, the defense raised really good points. If there was intention to cause harm, then why did they call for, they called for EMTs long before he had expired, and they even escalated the call. You hear the cops express concern saying that he might be, adrenaline surging. They were worried about he might be on drugs, that kind of stuff. So that doesn't really show a depravity. The biggest thing, I think, is the fact that they train their officers that it's okay to put a knee on the back of somebody's neck, and that he had a lethal amount of fentanyl in his system. Now, these are things that, remember, the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt certain things, right? And to the reasonable, objective person, that is, reasonable doubt, right? Well, yeah, it could have been the knee on the neck, but it could have also been the massive amount of lethal drugs in his system. He could have intended to harm George Floyd, but why would you call for an EMT while you're simultaneously harming someone? I suppose it's possible if you're calling 911 as you're shooting somebody, which Joe Horn did here in Beaumont, Texas, near where I live. So, again, it's iffy territory. It's once the emotions die down and this fades to the background, like how OJ faded, we'll know what the legacy of this is. Do I think he's guilty and deserves to be in jail? Yes. For not for any of the reasons normally talked about, but I think his failure to react and respond to a dynamic situation is cause for a conviction. Now, as to what charge and all of that stuff, it's a bunch of gray. I don't think any of the charges really fit very well. I think he should do some time in jail. I don't think it's necessarily worth his entire life in jail. And it's because one of the things is the police department trained them to do that. So he's following his training and their protocols, quote, being a good soldier. Okay, and if you lens it that way, being a good soldier sometimes means you do things that disturb you. He's never actually talked about how it's impacted him. Nobody really wants to hear his side of the story anyways. And he had his chance and he turned it down. So, we won't know, right? We won't know what he was actually thinking, not in his words. It's going to redefine murder moving forward, and I think that's a good thing, because I think we've had too many acquittals where the definition of murder didn't fit the behavior of public servants, right? So somebody dies, but it's not murder, but they died in your custody. That's not murder, that's something else entirely, right? That's the main thing that this conviction is going to do. It's now we're now moving forward with a new set of standards for what constitutes murder. And a lot of this stuff's going to have to be hammered out. So I think it's a good direction. My initial prediction was wrong in terms of the outcome. As far as the direction I hoped it would go, I think it's still the right direction. I think probably more than 10 years, and this is just my opinion, because I see it as more of a failure of protocol and failure of a man's humanity, but his bad day at work. I don't think there was intention to kill and murder. I think there was intention to subdue, and a man died. I think anything too far past 10 years would be more towards the side of an emotional sentencing. But we'll see. That's just my opinion. I don't think he should do life. I don't think he should do more than 20 years. But I do think he should do time for sure. And I do think he is responsible, and I do think he's guilty for the death of George Floyd. As for the other police officers, we'll see, right? It's a new era. We'll see what juries decide. But as a whole, I'm glad the jury convicted. It's uncharted territory. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So I'd like to hear your thoughts and comments. Please like, comment, or share. I'll see you all on the next one. If I can hit the stop button. There we go. Damn it. Damn it, damn it. Damn it, come on.